Hi, everybody. This is day 1049, coming up on 1050, 1049. And it's all about this here. It's all about him. This is our son. Where is he? Right? Where is he? 1049 days. Where is Richard? And I spent quite a bit of time. I try to manage my time, and I put something up on Moms about that because, you want to, slow and steady, consistently wins the race. And you might not know where all of this is going at the beginning when you have a missing loved one, especially when they're missing from their barracks room on Fort Bliss in El Paso, Texas, and they're a member of the United States Army with trillions of dollars of funding to care for our soldiers and protect our country, defend our Constitution. It gets a little disappointing. It gets criminal. It gets criminal. So, yesterday was a major day because we put in a criminal complaint, filing a criminal complaint about the forced disappearance, the conspiracy and the murder of our son, Richard Halliday. We are at 1,049 days. And I'm sure that it's a little bit shocking when we do something like that because we never thought that we would get to this point. We didn't know. We didn't know. We did not know that we would have to go to these kinds of levels and maneuvers and complaints with our own trillion-dollar institution, the U.S. Army, who is supposed to be defending us, and taking care of our soldiers, our volunteer soldiers, training in the Medal of Honor ethos with esprit de corps, taking care of the family. We did not expect to have to go this route. Matter of fact, I told the PAO, Lieutenant Colonel at the time, Allie Payne, we wanted a win-win. We wanted something good for the Army because we knew that the Army was going through, a lot of trouble with the case of Vanessa Guillen and Richard. I want everyone to know that Richard is the Vanessa Guillen first absent soldier. That's what he is. And we did not know for the longest time that he's a whistleblower. I was going through the timeline today, redoing the timeline. If anyone has very important dates and information for dates, like when did Richard's search be ordered called off? We would like to know because it must have been very, very early on that they called off the search for Richard. Because you have to remember that Jay Paulin wrote on his social media, we don't look for AWOL soldiers. And, that's just not true. That's not true. The commander absolutely has a protocol and absolutely has to take care of that protocol, follow that protocol when a soldier is missing. And we believe because there was such a lack of action, that there was a lack of urgency, that there was a lack of search, that those protocols, that search, that letting the military police know, letting the family know, uh, doing the interviews, all of the things that needed to be done, 3 days later, 4 days later, we're not done. And that means that somebody ordered the search of Richard off. They they ordered it. Do not search. Do not search. Do not care. Who did that? Who did that? That is a huge thing, huge question, a huge inquiry that I think needs to be made, because here we are going through our timeline, and we're like, you know what? That it was so stinky at the beginning. They didn't contact family, they didn't support family, they didn't contact the military police. Doesn't look like it, because you see, they said they couldn't contact us, and the military police absolutely has the authority to contact family. It's not a problem. And that was not done. And so, where's Richard? And why did they call off the search for him? And why didn't, this is huge, why didn't the CID, when they did bring us back in? You have to understand that when Richard went missing, uh, all kinds of trouble was happening because of the way the CID and the Army handled Vanessa Guillen's case, how they handled Enrique Roman Martinez's case, how they handled Austin Hawke's case, how they handled Caleb Smithers' case, and more, and more. And so to see that they were not urgent, that they called off the search for a missing soldier from the barracks, no less, the barracks on Fort Bliss, no less, on the border city, El Paso with Juarez, Mexico, and they just call it off, and they, without even notifying family. And I don't think they notified the police, because police absolutely have the authority to contact family. And then when we inquire, when we call on day 36 days after he goes missing, they throw us out. When we're like saying, no way, this couldn't happen, and we're begging them to help us. Oh my gosh, you have to help Richard. You have to help us find Richard. That's not right. That doesn't sound right. They said, no, he's not in our jurisdiction. Even with everything that happened with Vanessa Guillen and Gregory Morales and Austin Hawke and Enrique Roman Martinez and so many others that had gone missing there at Fort Hood and Fort Bragg and that. And they didn't even say, well, wait a minute, we need to look into this. No, they threw us out. And it wasn't until Hannah on her Instagram, 40,000 shares on social media, and they realized that we were going to look for Richard no matter if they helped us or not. Then they brought Richard back on the rolls. They put him back on the rolls and told us that they were going to help us. And yet, They did not tell us that Richard was a whistleblower to Child Protective Services. No, they initiated a smear campaign on him. And they did not tell us that there was an order to stop the search of Richard very early on. It had to have been very early on. Everything in our timeline says that there was no protocol being followed. The only way no protocol is going to be followed is if someone in authority and command issues an order to say, you will not follow the protocol. You will not search for Richard Halliday. And this is during COVID. Was that their excuse? Was that their excuse? This is very serious because um, we would like to know, was that done because, it's logically, it absolutely happened. There is a high suspicion. I mean, you can, um, all you have to do is look at our timeline and you see that they didn't start searching until 2.5 months. I would give them a little bit earlier, right? Like when they finally brought Richard on the rolls, they decided, okay, well, we better try to do at least a fake search or a staged search. But I'm just it's just curious because if whoever gave the order to stop the search of Richard was one of the perpetrators of the murder of Richard, that's why we need to know. That's why we need to know. And this gets more and more dangerous for us because you see, yesterday we put in a formal complaint um, about the murder of Richard. And it, uh, what is really concerning is that there is a history of major crimes. Major crimes. We're talking about incest. We're talking about the sexual assault of a 7-year-old child in Leilani Hart's master bedroom by multiple members of the family. Or household, multiple members of the household. Um, we're talking about child pornography, and yet the message, the concern that everybody has is, was Dallas Hart Richard's platoon leader? That's not illegal. That's not illegal to be the platoon leader. So why is that such a big deal? Why is that such a big deal if if Dallas Hart was Richard's platoon leader? That's totally legal. That's not illegal. That's not a crime. What is a crime is the incest. While you're in uniform, it's a double crime. I shouldn't say double crime, but it's not good. It's not good. He's up to no good. And the 7-year-old child, why aren't people concerned about this 7-year-old child that, it took almost 2 years for Leilani Hart to report this crime? How many times does this child have to suffer, right, in her master bedroom with multiple members of her household? Um, no one's crying out about that, but they're crying out about a non crime that I say Dallas Hart was Richard's platoon leader. And I do say it because I have witnesses that gives me a suspicion, gives me, if someone says, oh, yeah, that, this is way early on. Oh, yeah, that guy, he was Richard's platoon leader. And where is the platoon leader? Where is Richard's platoon leader if Dallas Hart isn't the platoon leader? You know? Um, so they could produce the platoon leader. The platoon leader can call us. The platoon leader needed to call us, but we've never even known who the platoon leader is. And we've never heard from the platoon leader. And we reached out to um, First Sergeant Ruggiero, and we have him on record saying, I am unwilling to answer your questions. So he's unwilling to answer our questions. He's the first sergeant, and where's the platoon leader? And then you have Captain Park. None of them telling us that Richard was a whistleblower to Child Protective Services and to CID, Criminal Investigative Division of the U.S. Army. Now that is staggering. That is, it just takes your breath away when you think about what is going on and they say they were willing to help. No, I don't think so. But that's all little stuff, to be honest with you. I think Dallas Hart being the platoon leader must be very, very big to them because they really care about it more than the incest, more than the child rape, more than the child pornography and other allegations. So, yeah, it must be very important. So I guess we need to look into that more. We need to get the answers to that more, and we have put in an inquiry for that. I don't know if they're going to cover it up. I don't know if they're going to answer it. Matter of fact, I need to make sure that I'm running and that you can hear me. But think about the lack of the search at the beginning. Only that could happen if the search was ordered to cease. If there was um, an order to stop the search. I think that is a huge question that's really, really on my mind because of the timeline that I'm working on. Um, yeah, I see that because of the timeline. So we are absolutely convinced that Richard's remains, partial remains, were found in Mexico. We are convinced of that. This makes this an international um, case. So maybe that's a good thing. Maybe we can get some help from Mexico. We're looking to get some help from Mexico. And why do we believe that Richard's partial remains were found in Mexico? Because Lieutenant Colonel Bradford Bugado's father-in-law told us so. And not only did Nadal be, I always say his name wrong, Nadal B E B A E M. I'll just call him Nadal since my mouth doesn't want to say his name. So Nadal, who was very, very forthwith, and I mean, it was just wonderful talking to him because he admitted to everything. He said that a lieutenant colonel told him. A lieutenant colonel told him. We then decided to turn all of that information in, the video. We even turned in the fact that a lieutenant colonel told him, and the FBI and the CID came back and said that he was a nobody. And that's not true. That's not true. His his son-in-law is Lieutenant Colonel Bugado in the G3. The G3. And that was very, very important when we found that out, because it's jaw dropping in itself that he is a lieutenant colonel in the G3. And so, of course, um, Nadal would say a lieutenant colonel, so it's his son-in-law, that told him that Richard was found, his not that he was alive found, but that his remains were found, and that they were looking in 5 areas in in Mexico. Now, the 5 areas is also very interesting because um, I was told that if they dismember somebody and put them in 5 areas, that is satanic. So maybe there is 2 more areas. I don't, 2 more locations. I don't know. I don't know if this is, I know it's satanic. Okay, it might not be like a satanic ritual, but it's the spirit of Satan. And whoever whoever issued an order to stop the search for Richard, I believe had skin in the game, had skin in the crime, had skin in the crime. So I think that that needs to be looked into. I'm looking at Richard's picture right now, in front of me. And thank you so much, Anicia. Thank you so much, Danielle. And I just want to make it very, very clear. There is a difference when it comes to what is a crime and what's not a crime. And being a platoon leader is not a crime, but committing incest is. Raping a 7-year-old is. Having child pornography is. And I think if I was Dallas Hart, I would be more concerned. If I was the Hart family, I would be more concerned with those allegations made by Leilani Hart and notarized by Leilani Hart to the CID and to the FBI. I would be more concerned with that than I would be with Dallas Hart being Richard's platoon leader. But it doesn't look like that's the case. And so, you know, maybe do need to focus even more on the fact that Dallas Hart is the platoon leader for Richard. We have eyewitnesses to that, and I'm just saying, should I believe James Hart or Dallas Hart when Leilani Hart's not even arrested? That means that there's some legitimacy to her complaint to the CID. If she's not arrested, if they have not put in a criminal file against her for these false allegations, let's say they're false, then she should be arrested for doing something like that. And that's not the case though. So that to me, to Team Find Richard Halliday gives legitimacy, along with the notary public who had it in his hand and notarized this complaint that Dallas Hart was in an incestuous affair with his brother, that a 7-year-old child was being raped in Leilani Hart's master bedroom by multiple members of her household, and that they were in possession of child porn for long periods of time. Yeah, so this is really, really important, because that gives legitimacy to that. And I think that Major General Eisenhower needs to pay attention to what's going on Fort Bliss. and maybe give Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe a call and say, "Hey, what did you allow to happen on your, what were you letting them get away with?" Let's just say that. What no good were you letting them get away with? Because you know, uh, this has taken this long to get out, and we have the CID case number and the FBI case number, which no one ever has a CID and FBI case number. So, you know, but so I would be really, really concerned with that. And then on top of the image of Richard, that a site that has stolen the identity of the family, stolen the identity of the cause, stolen the identity of a missing soldier, has um, its intent is to bully, its intent is to control the narrative so that it's a cover up, its intent is to malign the family, its intent is to be up to no good, right? To be up to no good, no justice, no cause for the U.S. Army, no cause for the country, no cause to defend the Constitution. That is not what they're up to. They're up to the destruction of our country, the destruction of our soldiers. And this is really concerning because they're using a picture, an image that is not Richard, but they're calling it Richard because it is some kind of composite picture. And it matches really, really well with Dallas Hart's face. Like there's a composite with Dallas Hart and Richard. And I don't know if I should show that to you tonight, maybe tomorrow, but was there some kind of manipulation with pictures of Dallas Hart in a composite with Richard's face? I don't know. I don't know. It was, but what I do know is that it doesn't match Richard's face. It doesn't match. The proportions are all off. We did a forensic analysis on it. It does not match with Richard very well at all. I think the highest we got, uh, you know, like it was like 9% to 31 were the forensic on it. But yet, if we put Dallas Hart's face in the forensics tool analysis, it went way up. It went way up in the 70s. Even one is 86. And I'm like, what's going on here? Because, this means that they are giving Interpol a a tampered with, a manipulated picture. They're manipulating then with an international case. Because you see, Richard is um, multinational. He's multinational. He was born in Poland, grew up in Ireland and Germany. Has lots of family and friends. His his brother-in-law and sister live in South Korea. We have lots of friends, even in Africa. We have lots of friends in the whole, in Asia, multiple places there. We have friends all over Europe, friends and family, friends and family. So he's multinational. And so to hinder the search for Richard with this weird picture is tampering with an international case. And because we have Nadal Baim, finally my mouth did it, because we have his testimony that Richard's remains were found in Mexico, it's a secret. That means they're hiding the remains from the world. And hiding the remains from the United States tax funder of the $1 trillion military. And it's just not right. They're up to no good. And I'm absolutely convinced that they're hiding the remains of my son. Otherwise, I would have never said it. I would have never put it on my hat. I would not have done that. But we have so much information because of Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe looking for the remains of Richard um, in Area 244 on Fort Bliss, which is Kamal Jabbar, uh, the mock Afghanistan village. He wasn't looking for a live Richard, he was looking for a dead Richard. And the same thing was going on there. Everything was always looking for a dead Richard. So, and I believe they found his remains. And this is an international case. And they tampered with an international case. They tampered with Interpol. They had to be doing some kind of legal paper behind the scenes where they wouldn't have to give us Richard's body. And so I believe that one of the designations they used, maybe for a while, because I think the designations changed frequently. That's what I'm getting. Was died while missing. Died while missing. You don't have to provide the remains, the body. And I absolutely, and this is all with all kinds of evidence, all kinds of testimony, all kinds of 1,000 days of proof, 1,000 days of proof of that, you know, the withholding of information from us, that Richard was a whistleblower, and the smears on him. And then to look at the timeline again and realize that absolutely, absolutely, somebody decided to call off the search of Richard. Okay? Somebody ordered that the search for Richard would be called off. And then it wasn't started again until later. And if you go back and think about July 23rd, you don't hear a peep in the news cycle about Richard until September. I think maybe the very end of August. Stars and Stripes, maybe. But what's going on with the command there during July, at the end of July, the beginning of August? Absolutely, somebody ordered for the protocol not to be followed, which means they called off the search. And I think this is very, very important information that needs to be inquired about. If you were there on Fort Bliss, and I have screenshots of people telling me they didn't even know there was a missing soldier. And it is curious that I believe, that whoever ordered it like on the third, fourth day, because that's when really the ball gets going when it comes to notifying everybody, right? Meaning the authorities, the chain of command, the military police, the El Paso police, the sheriff, when you start doing all of the interviews, you start really looking into where this soldier is. So I think they must have called it off on day 3 or 4. And so we need to know if there was an order to call off the search for Richard. Okay? Because this narrative was out there that they don't look for AWOL soldiers. And nobody has ever said that to me. They've all said they absolutely look for AWOL soldiers. They absolutely look for missing soldiers. They've always had. Now, my husband, I was asking him about his opinion on all of this. So, what do you think, dear? And he's like, I never was in a unit that had an AWOL soldier or a missing soldier. Now, Rob retired in 2006 with 30 years service. Not just a couple years service, 30 years service. He never belonged to a unit, and he belonged to a lot of different units. Rob went in as an E3, okay? He went in as an E3, even though he had a bachelor's degree in biology. He went in and chemistry as an E3 because he wanted to be a PA. Now, the PA school, a physician assistant school, closed after he got in. And so he went to nursing school then. And when he got out of nursing school, PA school opened up again. And so he went into PA school. So he was E3, E4, E5, E6. E6. Then he went into PA school and was a warrant officer. I met him as a warrant officer 2. I pinned on warrant officer 3 on him. Because people might not know this, but we met in March and we were married in August. The same year. Yep. We knew. And that was in 1988. So, we absolutely knew. So I pinned on warrant officer 3 on him. And during the Gulf Operation Desert Shield and Operation Desert Storm, if you were a PA and you met certain criteria, you were then commissioned. And so he went from a CW3, and he didn't like this too much, but he did it, to a captain with time in service and made major quickly. And then, of course, he retired as a lieutenant colonel. So he saw a lot of different units. As a PA, there was some things in the timeline that he was sharing from the very beginning that I'm going to add to it. But he belonged to, when Richard was a guide on coming back from Qatar, he thought that he was in Birkenfeld. He was the PA, I think the senior PA for that ADA, Birkenfeld. But it wasn't. It was Han. It was at Han. So, but Richard was caught in pictures that Jay Paulin shared with us, and I thank him very much for that. And I did thank him for those pictures. But otherwise, I think Jay Paulin's up to no good. But I do appreciate those pictures. So, and Richard, he just looks so good here, Richard's looks so good. This looks really good. What a handsome, really handsome. And I even turn that to the military, yeah. So absolutely, Rob saw a lot, but not a missing soldier. Not a missing soldier. A lot of injured soldiers, and worse, but not an AWOL soldier. And so it's very interesting. It wasn't so common, and now it seems pretty common at Fort Bliss. And we have a new soldier that was in the. Let me see. I wrote down the name, but I don't. I don't. I think his name was Tristan. Tristan. Um, and he said he was possessed by the devil. What is going on? What's going on? Um, I think our leadership is just up to no good. And, it's not just a one thing, a one time thing. We have an inquiry that we have to make. I should have probably made it today. Um, but it is about this soldier that had this 14-year-old living there in the barracks for months with him. Now, that is really concerning, and it has to do with Richard's case, too, for a broader issue. Um, so those are the main points that I wanted to bring up. Is absolutely with the research I did today, and Rob feels the same way, that there was an order to halt the search for Richard, and we'd like to know. And we're pretty confident that there was an order to halt the search for Richard very early on, day 3 or 4. Okay? So 33 days before we even knew our son was missing, they were halting the search for him. And then, we have these reports that they found remains. They kept finding remains. And it was shh, shh. So absolutely, we feel like they not only stopped the search, halted the search, gave an order to do it, but also in secret, in the quiet, found Richard's dismembered remains and gave him autopsies or whatever, and just kept it, hid his body. Where is his body? Where is he? So I think this is definitely an international case. It is a brutal case. It is a case of dereliction. It is unequal. And I can say this too about Biden right now. There is so much evidence. We're stupid if we think that this stuff didn't happen. There is our commander in chief is involved in covering up and participating with exactly what Richard was whistleblowing on. So there was no changes made. Things that Vanessa Guillen was blowing the whistle on. Things that Austin Hawke was blowing the whistle on. You see so many whistleblowers, and they've been all retaliated against. And there's this unequal justice system that if you're connected, like what's happening on Fort Bliss, like what's happening with the Hart family, then you are not held accountable. Like this leader that called off the search of Richard with an order, using their uniform, using their position, their stars and stripes, whatever that might be, to order, and it has to be, it is very obvious that something is very wrong, and we don't have a justice system like it's supposed to be. because all of this could be answered. Months ago, I've been asking about uh, Dallas Hart being the platoon leader for months. Where is that handwritten travel voucher? Is not evidence, y'all. It's evidence of asymmetric warfare tactics. We're not a family. For me, they could probably fool me, okay? Because I don't know that much about the military. I know more now than ever because of this case. But when Rob was in the military, I didn't stick my nose into the military business. I was trying to raise four children, keep the house together, homeschool them, work. So, yeah, I didn't stick my eyes. So I didn't, they could fool me, but I'm not alone. You see, I'm not alone, and Richard's not alone. Richard has other advocates, and he has very, very strong advocates, and they know the military. And that travel voucher, that has not been around for a long time. It's all digitized. So to have this handwritten travel voucher, that it's really insulting to us. And maybe not to me, but to Team Find Richard Halliday, it's insulting. And the stage task force Find Richard Halliday by McConville, General McConville, is insulting. And the underage drinking, we take underage drinking seriously. Now, I got that right off the bat, and I was just looking at them, and they knew I got it. And they were, brought me this big old file to say, see, it is punitive. And I'm like looking at them like they're insane. And they were. They were absolutely insane in these meetings. So let's see what's on. There's stuff going on here. Yeah, we're being mocked. Richard Halliday, Ricardo Diaz Festivos, means Richard Halliday, right? So good evening. Understand your desire to find answers, but have questions. You, as far as I'm aware, are a math major and a former teacher that hasn't even homeschooled in a while. I myself, I just homeschooled this morning because I have grandchildren and I help. Um, I myself have a degree, not in math, but in general studies. As a math major, what qualifies you as a forensic expert? Same can be said for I'm not a forensic expert. I'm not a forensic expert. Who said I was a forensic expert? I said forensic analysis was done on those pictures. um, I'm just telling you the results of the forensic experts. Okay? And that picture is was tampered with. That's what I'm saying. That's what I was that's the information that I was given. Um Same can be said for your expertise in law enforcement. Well, look, we have been Team Find Richard Halliday. Never chose to go 1,049 days in investigating, being the media, being the advocate for Richard to the extent of trying to debunk every smear that was put on him. We have been made the PI. We have been made the law enforcer. We have been made the lawyer. We have been made the media. We have been made everything. The chief investigator. We've even had to make sure that we are well protected because the DA doesn't, our rights, just like Richard's rights, have been violated. The Sarasota sheriffs came to our house, didn't even have a warrant, couldn't even produce a warrant, can't even produce a warrant. You know, that that's not our fault. First Sergeant Michael Ruggiero was unwilling to answer our questions. We have never ever met Richard's platoon leader. Um, Richard's Richard's unit has been kept from us. They have been silenced. They weren't even flagged. They were deployed. They were reassigned. They were, yeah, they went out of the military. Our CAO used asymmetric warfare tactics against us. He participated in a website and he left his access to his Google Drive on that website that was meant to do us harm, to do the search harm. Our other CAO committed suicide. We didn't ask for that. We had a day of prayer for that. Um, we have gone, what, 3 dozen times to Juarez. We have followed people's leads. We have followed Veronica Escobar's lead, her team's lead anyway, up that McKilligan Canyon. We have followed leads in Mexico. We have submitted paperwork in Mexico, and it was tampered with. It was tampered with. This is an international case with the Interpol being tampered with our report in Mexico being tampered with. Richard's files there at CID tampered with. We have an official report that it was tampered with. That video, it has been tampered with. That video is missing. We have the CID responsible for the disappearance of Richard because he was a whistleblower. And the very person that was his victim's advocate exposed him illegally and leaked his file to Leilani Hart. We have a report on that. And Leilani Hart is the mother of Dallas Hart. And Dallas Hart, we have been told by multiple people officially that he was Richard's platoon leader. Now, that's not a crime. And I think that where is the leadership that has Dallas Hart's back, that can send us a letter that officially states that what Dallas Hart's relationship with Richard was on Fort Bliss? I think that's important. Now, that's not crazy for a mother of a missing soldier to ask. When we've been told that Dallas Hart, the son of Leilani Hart, who was given Richard's file, who used that file to fortify a complaint that we have the number for, that complains and is notarized that Dallas Hart, while in uniform, is engaging in incest. That household was sexually abusing another soldier's child that was 7 years old in Leilani Hart's bedroom. And that there was child pornography. Now, I don't think when Richard is a whistleblower and he's whistleblowing to Child Protective Services and he's whistleblowing to CID, and we know him, and what would he be whistleblowing about? And that is to protect children, because he was adopted at 5 years old. He knows what it's like. So he protected children. He protected young mothers because I told both boys, never ever will I badmouth their birth mother. She gave me two beautiful, beautiful sons, and I'm forever grateful for that. Now she is not living anymore. R.I.P. Rest in peace. And this group uses Richard's adoption information to mock him when he's not even there to defend himself. And this is a harassment, this is a bullying, this is an intimidation, but we're not intimidated. My goodness, our family, we decided to adopt. You know, you have to be and I just have to put a feather in our hat for that. You have to be pretty sure-footed to adopt for all the right reasons. And we adopted for all the right reasons. We wanted 2 sons. We put in for 3 children. Because if there was another brother, if there was another sister, then we could adopt 3. There was 5, y'all. 1 was not even up for adoption, and the 2 were adopted by another family. So, can I change things? Can I, you have to be pretty stable to go through that. And I'll tell you, when we adopted the boys, the birth mother was still alive. So you have to be a pretty strong person to go through that. And it was the best thing we did. It's the best thing we did. There was a lot of best things that we did. Homeschooling, best thing we did. You have to have a lot of courage to homeschool. I'm telling you, because before the adoption, I was shaking. Before homeschooling, I was shaking because I knew the magnitude of what we were taking on. And this search for Richard, I know the magnitude. These are people that are in a criminal syndicate, y'all. The criminal syndicate is not one crime. It's not 2 crimes. It's multiple crimes they've committed. And Richard reported that he pulled on a string. And they didn't like him. They judged him. I was told they judged him. They judged him. They had some kind of court, or I don't know what they did. But I was told multiple times, they judged him and they found him guilty. And they proceeded to punish him. And when the retaliation, the constant and severe retaliation that came from Major General Clem Coward, that came from Lieutenant Colonel Michael Roddick, also Colonel Dauber, also Captain Park, David Park, and they waved the green flag to bully Richard, to retaliate against him, to destroy him, to absolutely destroy him while he was living. They were training him to suicide, as Elder Fernandez's mother said very insightfully. And it didn't work. So they had to murder him. And that is, yes, I am a math. I try to think logically. I try to keep my emotions at bay, which has been really, really tough to walk that line, right? Straight and even and tall and determined. and I'm determined to get my son's remains. And absolutely, I love my country, so I'm absolutely determined to get justice. Because a land without justice is just a criminal syndicate, a band of robbers, of thieves. And I love my country. Going back over recent lives, I see so many. Why would you go over many different? I don't even go over my lives. I mean, why would you go over my lives? Um, to be questioned that I would bet my life savings on that you are wrong and solely saying things off personal thoughts and opinions. Of course, I'm saying things from personal opinions because I've been doing this day in and day out for 1,000 days. Of course, my personal opinions. Um, okay, Richard Halliday. I've also seen multiple lives where you say you'd share information in the next day or two. As of now, it's solely opinions rather than facts. Even the expertise of your husband and the father is more than likely out of date and inaccurate. You just stated Mr. Halliday has been out for nearly 17 years. I know that things have changed in the short time I've been out, so I know that the Army your husband and father knew is nothing like what it is now. And absolutely, absolutely. But I will say this um, he got out in 2006, but we were very close to the military for many years. Okay, Danielle, with your great expertise, can you assist the family in spreading awareness about active duty missing soldier Richard Halliday? We, the people, just want active duty Army soldier Richard Halliday found. Exactly. We want him found and we want him brought home. And yeah, he's my child. Um, uh, we made promises to him, y'all. He's my son. And one thing people might not know if they've never adopted a child, but you forget really quick. They are yours. It's like you they're just yours. And with time, do you know, with time, they actually become yours physically. It's it's the most miraculous thing. And so you know, I recommend it. I recommend adoption. Um, anyway, ma'am, your son was over the age of 18. Therefore, regardless of you being his parents, you would not be, it's just, you know, uh, blah, 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 blah. I don't care if he's 99. He's my son, right? He's my son. And um, where is he? Where is he? My mother is soon to be 80. She would love to know um, all her life what happened to her father. I mean, she knew because she got a letter, and when the Iron Curtain came down, she was allowed to go into that mass grave area where the letter that says this is where your father is buried in this mass grave behind Russian line. She was able to visit that area, so that gave her some closure. But yeah, you want to know, and there's a lot of people that I met that they never got the letter that my grandmother got. Oh my God, they didn't get anything. Their husbands were gone, and They didn't know if they were alive or dead. They didn't know anything. And so until you get into that situation, it doesn't matter how old he is. And this is what I was telling Jay Paulin. What do you mean you just think I should leave it alone and he'll come back? Are you crazy? Are you crazy? This is Richard. Richard was so good at contacting us, and we were like, okay, maybe he missed one time. Maybe he's in the field, maybe with COVID, whatever. And, I was really antsy. But things were really crazy because of the COVID. I hate that COVID stuff. Oh my gosh, I hate it. Anyway, that was crimes against humanity perpetrated by the DOD. Just saying. With subpoenas regarding Richard Halliday's disappearance, I believe federal rights judges can request all records deemed necessary, in my opinion. Right. And I really think we need to inquire about who ordered the stop of the search for Richard. Somebody ordered a stop to the search for Richard. So, and I think that's really, really important. And I have my idea of who it might be, but we'll see. And putting up the forensic pictures, I've given lots. I've given this. This is very interesting. Um, you know, these are the locations, and they just happen to be by orphanages or child centers. Anyway, um, there, and then of course up here by 244. So this is where that mock Afghanistan village is. And what's really interesting is I was told over and over again, okay, by many different people, look at the end of the runway. Look at the end of the runway. Look in that area. Look in that area. Guess what's in this area? The mock village. The mock Afghanistan village is right there. And where is it? The end of the runway, the Biggsfield runway. There's another runway right here, which is interesting. And then, of course, we have these Red Rio Range. Location 1 and 2, July 29th and August 5th. Can you imagine if that's true? If that's true, these autopsies, July 29th, August 5th, findings of partial remains of Richard. Wow. Can you imagine? Yeah. Um, so I'm going to ask some advice first before I put up the forensic pictures, of Richard, picture to Interpol that they use on this stolen Facebook page. Okay, it's stolen identity, and we're at the point where it's very, very clear. We have so much information. It's very clear. You really have to not have been paying attention to think that Richard's not murdered. Okay? Because what does it take to convince people? And, the whole thing with Dallas Hart being a platoon leader. Look, something is wrong there. And because something is wrong there, I can't just say when Dallas Hart calls me up, and I had he contacted me because I did like a little character thing. And I did character things on a lot of people. And, I did everything legally. I didn't do things with leaking. I just contacted his coach and said, hey, can you give me a character reference on this, on Dallas Hart? And he gave a good character reference on him. Maybe when he was in high school, he was a good character. I don't know. But right now, he's not trustworthy because of these allegations, these major allegations. And where is the command to have his six, you know, or even to produce Richard's platoon leader? Where is the unit telling us who is the platoon leader? It says that's just one little example. One little example. There's so much wrong with this case, and it's so dangerous for us. So, if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer it. Ricardo is full of crap, hiding information from the parents of a soldier who might be a victim of a crime by another in the Army is a crime in itself. Absolutely. We absolutely know that Richard was a double whistleblower to the CPS and to the CID, and he was illegally exposed. And they withheld that information from us. They never told us that information. We had to find it out. They withheld the information that Dollar General man was Nadal Baim, the father-in-law of Bradford, Lieutenant Colonel Bradford Bugado in the G3 of the 32nd ATCOM, which is Richard's command. And it's not just any part of the command. It's the section that does operations, that do the operational orders, that give the orders. And shh, shh. Yeah. Now I can see all the comments. Wow, that's great. And I can see you too, Kat. Thank you so much. Accusations do not constitute guilt. No, they don't. And they're not accusations. They are official criminal complaints. Okay, that's what they are. Official criminal complaints. Because we have reasonable suspicion. So I'm starting to learn my rights. And I'm not accusing anybody. I'm saying my son is missing. He's a whistleblower. We have reasonable suspicion because of X, Y, and Z. And we had A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z. We had it all. And we turned that in. And so we'll see what General Eisenhower will do. We'll see what CID Quantico will do. They haven't even visited the crime scene yet. Okay? I think the FBI are really in charge of this case. I don't even think it's CID in charge of this case. And we all know what the FBI is up to. They're up to no good. So, and we know that the DOJ is up to no good. And we'll see. We'll see if somebody in there will love this country enough to do the right thing. And that is, what is the right thing? To answer our inquiries, to do the investigation instead of the family being the chief investigator, and to then give us justice and closure. That's would be the right thing to do. So, okay. And somebody coming on with the name Ricardo Diaz Festivos, which means Richard Halliday. They're just trying to mock. And I rather them come on and say, look, my name is Dallas. and I'm here to help you. And I'm going to advocate for Richard, and I'm going to get you the proof, the absolute undeniable proof that I have nothing to do with this. That's what I rather have. But that hasn't happened yet. Matter of fact, quite the opposite has happened. Quite the opposite. Okay. Thank you, everyone, so much for coming on and listening. And we have more news coming up. We're working behind the scenes to find Richard. There is $150,000 for credible information leading to finding Richard. We have reached out to the Veterans Organization. We're reaching out to veterans to help us. Please pass all this information, the live streams, everything else. There's so much on Find Richard Halliday, over 1,000 days, right, of information that you can find and pass forward. That would help us to get justice for Richard. So we really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And God bless you. Rob says, we love you. We love you for your support this long. It's amazing. And it really shows what a beautiful country we live in, that we will have this kind of support. So thank you so much, and God bless you. And I will be back on tomorrow, God willing. Bye-bye.